There are a ton of videos on YouTube talking about how you can start your podcast, how you can edit one, but there are just not enough videos to talk about how to actually sustain your podcast. I was able to start my business and quit my full-time job a year and a half after I started podcasting. Hey, it's Faye, your content creator next door. And in this video, I want to talk to you about how not only to start your podcast, but to sustain it way into 2022 and beyond. If you clicked on this video, probably means that you're thinking about starting your podcast because it's getting so popular worldwide. Or perhaps that you've just started a podcast and you started to notice just how challenging it is to sustain one when it comes to guest outreach or coming up with script and content, or perhaps editing it or market it through social media. The good news is that you're not alone. And in this video, I'm gonna break it down in terms of the steps and exactly the software and my mindset if I were to start the podcast today. I wanna make sure that you guys avoid a lot of the mistakes that I made when I started my show in 2014. Here's a little background and context in terms of my relationship with podcasting. I started my show called Feisworld in 2014, interviewing unsung heroes and self-made artists. Then in 2019, I started my YouTube channel. Simultaneously that year, I launched my docuseries on Amazon Prime. My action and the way I focus on my creative work actually confused a lot of people. Why would she do everything? Why can't she just focus on one thing and do it really well? I just happen to be someone who's interested in a lot of different things and wanting to learn different skills. So now I'm benefiting from all of that. I'm able to harvest and really benefit from those skills because now I have a consulting side of my business in addition to rely only on YouTube ad revenue or YouTube sponsorships. So I'm able to help my clients achieve what I did. Before we get started, let's clarify. What does it mean to sustain your podcast? It actually means a few things. Yes, that means you want to continue running your show. Your show isn't dead after 3 or maybe 7 episodes. But it also assumes that you'll need enough information to continue your show, enough podcast guests, enough topics. Thirdly, it matters that as a creator, you continue to enjoy the endeavor. Imagine if it's just something or another thing you have to focus on. It will start off as a hobby, as a passion, but I assure you that with the right focus and strategy, your creative endeavor, with enough attention and strategy put in place and consistency, your creative work can sustain you in the long run as a creative entrepreneur. It's not about what you do while you're at the top when there's enough budget and time. Instead, it's about what you do when you're at the bottom. No time or budget left. No backlogged episodes. You haven't made a penny or don't see any sponsorship opportunities. You're exploding mentally and physically, spiritually, because there are not a lot of downloads. People don't seem to pay attention. Lastly, podcast is draining you mentally and financially. Or simply put, podcast isn't sustainable for you because you cannot possibly spend another second editing that damn thing yourself. It is my belief that sustaining your show is actually much more important than starting one. And most podcasters will quit within 7 episodes. And most creators will quit too early before they can actually harvest on what they have put in. Now in 2021 and soon 2022, the podcasters' games and communities have changed drastically. When I started, there weren't a lot of software I could choose from, and there was close to zero community that I could really be part of, i.e. other creators who understand what I'm going through. But today, the opposite is also true, sort of a double-edged sword situation. There are many more to choose from when it comes to hosting services, communities, memberships, software. So what I want to do is break it down in terms of how you can save the most amount of money, but also time to sustain your show. Number 1, in terms of choosing the podcast editing tool, I will probably not go with Audacity or GarageBand, and here is why. As it turns out, the minor editing such as ums and ahs and some of the spaces are actually really natural as part of the podcast. You don't have to chop all of them out. All you have to do is to ensure that you have a decent microphone that often costs less than $100. It's something that you can invest and it's accessible right away. And when it comes to editing, I would choose a tool that, number 1, it's very easy to use. Assuming in this case, you're not an audio engineer, you don't spend a ton of time to understand, to learn, to get updates. Instead, a tool that you or perhaps your content manager or virtual assistant can pick up very easily. And that is Podcastle. Podcastle.ai not only offers an entire spectrum of the tools that you'll ever need as a podcaster, from uploading, managing projects and folders, sharing those folders with your team, as well as something called MagicDust that allows you to quickly balance and synchronize the audio pieces, even if it means that you're recording from a professional microphone and your guest is talking through a phone, or perhaps a recording from a native microphone without an optimal sound quality, perhaps even background noises that you have to remediate and level set during post-production. You can do that with just one click within Podcastle. It gets better. From Podcastle, you're able to transcribe your audio into a transcript you can download. You can even edit the transcript instead of editing the audio directly, sort of similar to Descript. You also have features such as Revoice, which allows you to turn any content pieces, news, Wikipedia, or your own writing into podcast episodes. Last but not least, the features that are upcoming for Podcastle, including the ability to edit your live stream, your videos into podcasts. Also in 2022, Podcastle will release another version of Revoice, which allows you to train your own voice. Now let's move on to the second category, which is where you're supposed to host your podcast. I started with Libsyn in 2014, paying $20 and slowly moving into the $40 a month category. At the time, I didn't think it was a big deal, but in retrospect, even though that their customer support was very good, a lot of the top podcasters were using that platform, the cost does add up. You'll notice as you transition into creative entrepreneurship, there's just always more to pay for, more to purchase. Today, as well as I have been in the past 2 years, I've been hosting Feisworld podcast, my new show, The Circus Show, as well as all my clients' podcasts directly on Anchor.fm. Anchor really is a great platform and it's backed by Spotify. Recently, Spotify announced video podcasting. I have a separate video you might want to check out. Anchor podcasters have the priority in terms of entering into Spotify as video podcasters. Today, many people, including myself, listen to podcasts directly through Spotify. I love the ability to be able to switch between music and podcasts. And guess what? With video podcasting, now I'm able to watch the podcast as a video, or I listen to it as audio. To have that selection is really quite convenient, and it changes the experience for the better. If you join Anchor today and you're thinking about recording your podcast as videos, maybe that's done through Zoom or other platforms, that's a great idea. If I were you, I'll get started right away, start applying for that application, and just become a video podcaster as soon as possible. That moves up to the third category. Most importantly, leverage livestream. I've been live streaming using Restream since the beginning of 2020, and I'm able to reach 3 times the audience than just the audio podcast alone. I cannot think of any negative reasons as to why you should not live stream. If you get started live streaming your conversations, your podcast today, you'll be able to easily repurpose that content to be video podcasts on multiple platforms. In fact, Spotify and Apple both enabled video podcasts at this point, and I believe that's going to be a trend and a household name starting in 2022. Finally, I have a few things to say about podcast monetization. You may or may not know this as a new podcaster, but generally speaking, it is really hard to make money directly from podcasts or podcast downloads. Given the competition and what advertisers are looking for, the more downloads you have, and they better be authentic downloads and not purchased ones, they're able to then calculate conversion. So downloads to advertisers is everything, as well as your audience. Relying on downloads alone as a new podcaster is nearly impossible. If you don't believe me, listen to Jordan Harbinger or Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income. They talked about the first 5, 6, 7 years of podcasting generated them $0. Indirectly from podcasting, however, is quite straightforward. I was able to start my business and quit my full-time job a year and a half after I started podcasting because my guests, my listeners, started referring all these clients to me. They found out more about me, about digital marketing, what I do for clients. In the way, they became my small but powerful tribe. They started spreading the word about Feisworld Media. If I can do it, so can you. Now, in the description below, I've left information regarding Feisworld Academy, where I summarized even more of the how-to podcast information alongside how to monetize. The good news about that is that you do not need tens of thousands of downloads before you can monetize your show. We're living in this Great Resignation. So many people are thinking about how to leave their full-time job and turn what they love doing into a part-time, even a full-time career. I'll be covering things including taxes, health insurance, how to design your website, how to attract clients, how to build services and know what you're good at, how much to charge, how YouTube and podcasting can really help you from a business perspective, how to generate more and new leads. So be sure to tune in 30-day live right here on my YouTube channel. Remember to start and stay podcasting is a great way for you to network with people, connect with folks you never would otherwise have access to. Podcasting, whether it's audio or video, it's a great way to find your voice, to start building your personal brand. Trust me when I say this, in this day and age, it's no longer optional. Be sure to watch this video next. You don't see any downloads, you're getting frustrated. I'm gonna tell you why that is. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.